what's up, you guys? Marty Schwartz here with Marty Music. Thank you for the continued support. We got another great countdown for you guys. Now, we spent a lot of time on the show talking about great songs, but several of our favorite bands spent a fair amount of time crafting songs that together were greater than any individual song in the collection because they addressed a cohesive theme. This practice of writing a group of songs that thematically go together became known as a concept album. So today, we're counting down the greatest concept albums in rock and roll. Let's go! Freak Out by Frank Zappa. Now, there's some debate out there which album is the first concept album that was ever produced. Some think it's Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys because of the sonic similarities between the songs. But just a few weeks later, a young man named Frank Zappa and his band, the Mothers of Invention, released a collection of songs on their album, Freak Out, that satirized the timbre and narrative of 60s music, which inspired musicians across the entire musical spectrum to release albums that adhered to a cohesive narrative. Thick as a Brick by Jethro Tull. Speaking of satire, Jethro Tull's album, Thick as a Brick, was deliberately written to parody the concept album genre, which resulted in some of Jethro Tull's best work. Many music critics refer to the band's previous album, Aqualung, as a concept album. Now, the band rejected this, and in response, decided to create what they called the mother of all concept albums by composing one complex piece of music that poked fun at the prog rock genre as a whole. Now, it ended up being so good that many people missed the joke. Arcade Fire, The Suburbs. Not all great concept albums were released around 40 or 50 years ago. Now, the art of concept albums is still around. Artists like Green Day, Kendrick Lamar, and Sufjan Stevens have all written excellent concept albums. But my personal favorite modern concept album has to be The Suburbs by Arcade Fire. The whole album was meant to be a letter from the suburbs and contained some of the band's best work. Tommy by The Who. The rock opera genre blends perfectly to the art form of concept albums, and there may be no greater example of this than The Who's album Tommy. The album is a roller coaster ride that tells the story of a deaf, dumb, and blind kid who's really good at pinball and starts a religious movement. And if this is the first time you're hearing about this album, the answer is no, I am not making this up. The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie. David Bowie is undoubtedly the godfather of glam, which is on full display in his concept album, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. And if you thought Tommy was weird, just wait. This album chronicles the alien Ziggy Stardust's understanding of planet Earth and contains some of Bowie's greatest songs, including Moon Age Daydream and Starman. The Wall, Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd may be one of the greatest pioneers in the concept album genre. Dark Side of the Moon is an incredible album, but The Wall is a downright masterpiece. This semi-autobiographical album is filled with inner turmoil, which makes for some of Pink Floyd's best work. It also explained to us which order we need to eat our meat and our pudding. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, The Beatles. This alter ego concept album may be one of the Beatles' best. Creating this music under the guise of a different band allowed the Fab Four to continue the sonic experiments they began with their album Revolver. Under the Lonely Hearts moniker, the band used sounds and textures that aren't typically associated with pop music. Paul McCartney later explained that his time spent listening to Frank Zappa's early work, along with Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, heavily influenced the composition of this album. What's your favorite concept album? Are there any you think we left off the list? Let us know in the comment section below. And while you're down there, thanks for subscribing. We'll see you real soon.